Welcome to Cook It. I'm Barbara Thiel, St. Clair County, a home economist from the Cooperative Extension Service. And today I have Brian Kaplinger, sous chef from the Thomas Edison Inn, to do a little workshop on buying, storing, using, eating shellfish. And I see from this big pan here that you have a variety of shellfish that I bet we don't even know what to do with at all. I see things here I'm not familiar with.
Sure. Well, first of all, we have our Blue Point oysters from Long Island. We have some cherry stone clams, some fresh mussels, and I got some shrimp here under the ice. Some nice 1620s.
You know, why this is such a nice program, Brian, and so wonderful for you to share with us. When we go to places like the Thomas Edison Inn, we'll eat these things.
Sure.
Especially like oysters. Who would buy an oyster?
Right.
So now you better teach us that we can have these things at home once in a while, too, for a
Sure.
little treat.
Okay, I'll be glad to. Okay, first of all, what I'm going to show you is how to shuck an oyster. A lot of people like oysters, but they're scared to buy them and take them home because they really don't know how to prepare them or what to do with them. First thing you want to do with your oysters, and these are already rinsed off, you want to take them and run them under some really cold water, get all the really gritty sand and all the stuff that you can't. Some people even take you can take a little scrub pad and scrub it all off. In fact, these still need to be rinsed just a little bit. Just rinse it off a little bit. And then you take yourself a nice clean towel, and this is an oyster knife. You can buy it just about anywhere. As you can see, I've used this one quite a bit. They run you about $4 or $5. You keep it at home. You can use it for many other things other than just shucking oysters. You can open cans that you can't quite get open. You can lift it up and pry it open instead of breaking your knife. What I'm going to show you first of all is how to shuck an oyster. First of all, you want to put it on something dry, preferably a nice clean kitchen towel like I have here. And you want to look for the end part right here. You want to be able to dig in there and get this one out. In fact, and that's another thing I wanted to show you. When you go to buy your fresh oysters, you got to check them. If you pick them up, you can tell the difference. This one is fresh, and I brought a couple dead ones just to show you. This one is dead. It has a hole in the shell, and I can stick my knife right in there. The shell just kind of falls apart. This oyster is not real well. I wouldn't even use it for oyster stew or anything. I would probably just disregard it. When you buy them, you want to feel them. They should be nice and firm. They should have some weight to it. Now what you want to do is you want to get right into the corner. And a lot of people think you just pry in and you open your oyster, but you don't. You rock the knife a little bit. You got to get in there, dig under the shell, and just rock the knife back and forth a little bit, and you can see how much easier it is to open these. Now, once you get the shell partially open, you don't want to take it all the way off. You want to take your knife, go around the top, because there's a membrane right here on the top that you want to pull off. Just follow your way all the way around. Be very careful because oysters have a lot of sharp edges on them. And you just pull that off, and see you can see the membrane right there. The membrane right there. You don't want to tear that off because it's really delicate and it's very tasty also. So what you want to do is just take your oyster knife and pull it off a little bit. It should come off nice and clean. Should be nice. You should have a nice glaze to the outer oyster shell, and then you can just disregard that. Now here I have a nice oyster. Now what you want to do if you want to serve these on the half shell with just over some crushed ice with a little cocktail sauce, again you got to dig under there and don't rip it. Just be very gentle and get the other side of the membrane off. And then again, just follow it all the way around. Being very careful with it. Now you have a nice fresh oyster. You can see the freshness in that. It's nice and clear. Now, before you eat this, you might want to rinse the shell and rinse off your hands a little bit, which is what I'm going to do. Just a very little bit. You don't need to rinse it off a lot. Get off all the little gritty pieces of shell. And there you have a nice oyster all ready to eat. Okay, and we'll put that aside for a few minutes. Disregard your rag. Make sure when you work with seafood that you keep your seafood away from everything else. You don't want to get your seafood mixed in with your salad items or anything like that. Seafood, any kind of raw product, you don't want to mix in with anything. Okay, now what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to show you a couple cherry stone clams here and what to look for when you buy these. Again, when you get any kind of seafood, you should always check. If the shell stays shut, that means the clam is alive, and you can tell, you can feel it. It has some density to it. And then again, for an example, I brought another dead one. This is a dead cherry stone clam. The shell won't close. When they're alive, sometimes they'll open up, and you can close them, and they will stay shut. This is dead. It will not shut. So the best thing to do with anything like that is just disregard it. Again, you can see the difference in texture. It's all dried out. It doesn't look very appealing. Now see this clam? See how he's trying to shut on his own? Means he's still fresh, he's still alive. They open up just to breathe every once in a while. The best thing to do when you store these is not to store them directly on ice. What you want to do, see I have ice on the bottom pan here. Ice and ice water. Keep all your shellfish, such as clams, mussels, and oysters, out of water because the water will kill them. Okay? So what you want to do is you want to keep them like that, and then when you're going to store these in your refrigerator, you want to cover them with plastic wrap the best you can. Make this as airtight as possible. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an easy, simple way to just poach off these cherry stone clams. What you want to do is you want to rinse them off real well one more time. I've rinsed all this stuff once, but they still have a little dirt on them and sand from the bottom, so I'm just going to rinse them off real quick here. And over here, I've already got a little court bouillon going, and court bouillon here, all I have is some fish base. I have about 4 ounces of fish base, which you can buy in any supermarket. You just have to go to the seafood department and ask the butcher, and he'll be glad to get you some. Seafood base or fish base, clam base. You can get almost any kind of base you want, but I usually just use plain ordinary fish base. And what I have added here, I have a couple lemons. I have a mirepoix, which is basically just onions, celery, carrots, and I have added a little black pepper to this also. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little of this court bouillon, add it to my pan, put it back on the stove, let that come to a real quick boil, which you can see it's boiling really hard right now. I'm going to cover these. I have the wrong cover. I'm just going to cover those and let them simmer for about 2 or 3 minutes. Okay. Now what I have over here is some fresh mussels also. Mussels are the same way, except you have to treat these a little differently. Mussels have a beard, and this beard has to be picked off. The best thing to do is just grab a hold of them and rip them out. And when you can tell your mussels are fresh because if you grab a hold of that beard and pull the mussel, you can feel it tighten up. I'm sure if you had your beard pulled off, you'd tighten up too. So just pull off all the beards, and any mussels that are already open, such as this one, they are also dead. There's not much you can do. When you buy mussels, you're going to find probably 10% of them that are going to be dead already. There's not much you can really do, so you just have to. Mussels are inexpensive, so you're really not going to take that much of a loss. Here's one that's partially open. If I just squeeze him a little bit, he closes. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to peel off all the beards, and then just again rinse all those off. Cherry stone clam's got a couple minutes. Now you'll be able to tell when these are done because they'll open up. Add just a little bit more court bouillon here. Let those simmer for a little while. Okay. Now again, you want to see that mussel opened up all the way. Now he just closed, so he's still alive and it's still fresh. In fact, he's real fresh. The same thing again, to cook these at home, all you need to do is have some fish base, even just poach them in regular water. Once you get these poached, I'll poach off a few, and serve them with a marinara sauce. All you need to do is make up a nice tomato sauce and serve over top of them with some garlic bread. Anything real simple. Again, just take 4 or 5 ounces. Pour them in there. Put the cover on. We'll let them simmer for a couple minutes. Pull these out, let them drain. A couple of those have a couple more seconds to go. Put the cover back on. When they're cooked, the clamshell opens up very nicely and the clam should just easily tear off. And just simply add, squeeze a little fresh lemon on there. Serve with a nice little squeeze of fresh lemon. Maybe throw on a nice little piece of dill for a garnish. And a little bit of parsley. Then if you added some nice marinara sauce to that, you have some nice cherry stone clams. Very simple and easy to prepare. Take you 10 minutes at home to prepare clams or mussels. See, mussels do not take quite as long. As you can see here, the mussels are already starting to open up. I'm going to let these cook for another minute. Okay. We'll let those go for another minute. Okay, now the next thing I brought here is some nice fresh shrimp. These are the 16-20 shrimps. That means you get 16 to 20 shrimp per pound. That's how you tell at a store how many shrimp you're going to get per pound usually. You can get shrimp, you can get 2160, 2130s, you can get 4560s. They're all different in size. And these are the 1620s. These are probably the biggest shrimp you could probably find at your local supermarket. So what I'm going to do is I'm just basically going to show you how to poach these off at home and prepare them for a shrimp cocktail. Okay? Let me get my clams off here. Okay. And now your mussels have all opened up. Freshly steamed, very fresh, very good. What I would recommend to do is serve this, just make up your favorite tomato sauce at home and pour over the top a little bit of lemon juice, some fresh parsley, and a little garlic bread. You got yourself a nice little appetizer there. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to poach off shrimp for shrimp cocktails. I have going here, I have some just regular water, and in the little bag here, and you can do these at home, very simple. It's just a little coffee filter with some pickling spice in it. The reason why I put the pickling spice in the bag is because that way I don't have to fish through there and get all of it out. What I do is I just take a little, your regular coffee filter, and this is your fresh pickling spice here, or dried pickling spice, I'm sorry, and just put a little in there, and if you'd like to add a couple cloves or whatever you'd like, you can also do that. Then just take it, fold it up really easily, twist it around, take a little string, and tie it onto the side of your stock pot. That way you're not going to lose it. And you can easily just disregard this, just take it out and drop it in the trash, and you're all set to go. But now what I want to do is I want to strain off the vegetables here. I have some carrots, celery, and a couple lemons in here, and a couple cloves of garlic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dig some of this out, because when I boil the shrimp, it'll make it a lot easier for me to get the shrimp out. And let your water come to a good boil, and let all your mirepoix, your carrots, your onions, and your celery, and your lemon, let them boil for a good 5 or 10 minutes to get the flavor out of the carrots and out of your onions. Then you can just disregard all this. Now as you can see, I have a good rolling boil going here, and this is how I want to always start any seafood that I'm going to poach. Okay? Now I'm just going to take these shrimp, nice handful. I'm going to drop them in here, and just because of the cold shrimp, it's going to make your water stop boiling. Now you want that to happen. That's a natural process. Now just give them a quick stir and let them sit for a minute. Now once your water comes back up to a boil, the shrimp are going to start to float. And I'll show you that process in just a second here as soon as it happens. It takes a couple minutes. Another way that you want to check your shrimp, most shrimp you're going to get in the market is going to be frozen, and your butcher will probably have it all thawed out for you. The shell should adhere to the side of the shrimp very, very nicely. They should be nice and tight. They should be fresh. They shouldn't smell too fishy. And another good way to tell how old shrimp is by the color of the tails. The little black tail piece right here, the darker it gets up to the top of the tail, the older your shrimp is. So these shrimp are fairly fresh. Okay? Now if you can see here, these shrimp are going to start coming to the top, and they're going to float. Usually when they start floating is when there's a sign that they are almost done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wait here for a minute, let them all come up to the top, and once they all come to the top and I get a nice boil one more time, I'm going to pull those off. Then all you have to do is run them under some cold water, and I'll show you how to peel the shells, and with the shrimp I already have cooked off. See, now these are how, if you want, you can always check these shrimp just by pulling one apart, and they should be nice and white. It should be cooked all the way through. Okay? Now what you want to do is you just want to take your shrimp, peel it away. Then when you get down to the tail, hold on to the tail like so. Pull off this remaining little outer shell right here. That way you keep your whole shrimp intact. Okay, now a lot of people don't realize that you have to remove the vein that runs down the back of the shrimp. That's very simple to do. You just take a knife and butterfly your shrimp open. Be careful not to go all the way through. Just go down the side, open it up. And remove that. Now all I need to do is run it under some cold water. And there you have your nice shrimp all ready to go for shrimp cocktails. A lot of people are scared to buy shrimp in the store, any kind of seafood, because they don't really know how to prepare it. And actually, it's very simple. It's very simple and easy to do. Okay, now my water has just now started to come to a boil. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this from the stove. Once the tails are all floating, that's usually my sign to tell me that those shrimp are cooked. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these off. I have a colander over in the sink. And just drain them off. That smells good. Now we just rinse those off with some cold water, and you're all set to go. And that should do it.
Well, Brian,
any questions?
I certainly have learned a lot. You know, we get a lot of telephone calls here at the Extension office, and people are always asking, how do they cook shrimp?
Sure.
And you really answered the question, and cleaning it too. So many people don't realize how simple, how
Sure.
easy, but it needs to be. And the other thing I enjoyed from your lesson is on these mussels. They come in big packages and they're dated, and they really are very, very inexpensive.
Right.
And you, in the package, you receive a large quantity.
Yes.
And it's one thing that people should try, just to
They're
try.
they're very good.
And cherry stone clams, they're readily available.
Yeah.
And oysters for stew. I know a lot of people won't eat raw oysters, but
Well, the
stew.
simple thing to do if you'd like to make yourself some oyster stew is just scald a little milk on the stove. You don't want to burn it. Just scald it, get it nice and hot, and throw your raw oysters in. Poach them for about a minute, and there you have oyster stew. Add a little lemon,
That's right.
a little seasoning. Season it to your taste. Maybe some Tabasco sauce if you like it a little spicier. Another thing too, when you boil shrimp, there's many different ways you can do these. For instance, what I just used was just a regular court bouillon, basically, is with your lemon and your mirepoix. But a lot of people, if you're having a party over and you're having friends over, you can throw a couple 12-ounce beers in the water. Believe it or not, you will get the flavor of the beer in the shrimp. And if you'd like them on the spicier side, you can also add some Cajun seasoning.
Oh, that's popular today.
Yes.
Very good. And we might add they're available just about all year.
Sure. Most any good fresh seafood nowadays you can get year-round.
That's right. Well, thank you for being our guest on Cook It, Brian.
Thank you.
And now people won't have to wait just to go to the inn, although they're still going to like to go to the inn as a special
Sure.
treat and enjoy. But now they know how it's done. And this has been Barbara Thiel, County Home Economist, and thank you for joining us on today's episode of Cook It.